okay, he's not what he used to be in terms of the level of conditioning that he once had. It's still phenomenal at age 40 in his 22nd season. But you don't look at LeBron James, the player, and question anything about that. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to Jokic, I think that he's been beat up. And we're looking at an Oklahoma City team that we have all deemed to be a superior bunch to almost anybody in the NBA, specifically this season. So Jokic being who he is, Denver being devoid of the depth it once had, looking at Jamal Murray, an Aaron Gordon, a Michael Porter Jr., and how capable they are, but also how inconsistent they have been from time to time. You look at a guy like Jokic, and when you see him, dare I say, looking human, it catches you off guard. Because when you see him last night and he finishes with 44 and 15, he's gotten to a point where we consider that relatively ordinary for him. So when we saw him struggling the way that he has in some games this year, we're like, that's not what we're accustomed to seeing, and we're pointing it out. So Perk's right to point that out, but not to accuse folks of moving the goalposts and using LeBron James as the litmus test to make such an assertion. I disagree with him on that point.
Wendy?
It's fair to say that LeBron is sometimes judged differently when it comes to criticism than his peers. That's a fair thing, and that's a conversation, but not Jokic on this night. Nobody was saying Jokic was tired last night. He definitely didn't move his feet great on defense in the fourth quarter, but the man had 44 and 15. The reason that the Nuggets lost last night was because his teammates won a collective 1 of 15 in the fourth quarter. You're not winning a game in this level of the playoffs against the level of a team like the Thunder when your teammates go 1 of 15 in the fourth quarter. And the reason, guys, is because they have no bench, literally no bench. There was an interesting decision at the beginning of the fourth quarter. David Adelman, the Nuggets coach, he had a decision to make. They were up by 8 points, and usually he gives Jokic a couple of minutes of rest to start the fourth, and he didn't. He left him in there to try to knock the Thunder out. And I do think that at the end of the game, that might have been a factor because I think Jokic was a little slow-footed closing out when they put him in pick and roll. But I'm certainly not criticizing him. I'm criticizing the makeup of the Nuggets, which is one of the reasons why their general manager was fired at the end of the regular season, because the roster build-out hasn't kept pace. And look, Russell Westbrook, for as fascinating of a player as he is, he hasn't been able to deliver in this series. I'm not questioning his character. I'm not questioning him as a person. He just hasn't delivered. He's 3 of 27 in the last 3 games. They need offense. He hasn't been able to deliver it. Westbrook probably shouldn't be your sixth man. You want to have the option to play Westbrook when he's doing well and not play Westbrook when he's not doing well. They don't have options. The reason the Nuggets lost this game was nothing to do with Jokic. It had everything to do with his teammates.
Yeah, 100%. And give Oklahoma City credit because they were down 90 to 81. They're down 80 to 68. And they had to win this game, and you got to give them a little credit there. And I fell asleep at 88-80. I hate to say it. So I didn't see Dort make 3 threes, which were the biggest threes in the game. Remember, they made 5 threes, OKC, in the last 6 minutes of the game. 5 threes, and Porter did a terrible job. What are you looking at me that way for? I can't go to bed?
Why are you falling asleep during the game?
I'm tired.
You didn't work on first take yesterday morning. So if you didn't work on first take yesterday morning, that means your day really didn't start until the afternoon. And if it didn't start until the afternoon, why in the hell are you falling asleep in the middle of a game?
Because I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm 65 years old. Thank you. I was tired. I fell asleep. What's the matter with you? Am I allowed to fall asleep?
No. We'll talk about that later.
I'm allowed to fall asleep. At least I admitted it.
You did admit that. Your honesty should be applauded.
That's the point.
We will talk about that later. We will talk about that. We will talk about that later. You don't get to fall asleep during a playoff game when your game start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
The game started at 9:40
Your
last
day
night.
started at 3 o'clock yesterday. Your day started at 3 o'clock.
What do you know? What do you know my day?
I know enough about it. I know Jeannie told me.
She would give me beer. And the funny thing is, I fell asleep, woke up again.
On the couch?
In bed. Put the TV
That's
back
your problem
on.
right
I
there.
said, how the hell did I
You
turn it
can't
off? I'll
watch
let
the-
Steve carry me.
You're setting yourself up when you try to watch the game in bed. You got to watch it on the couch.
You can't do it.
You got to sit up.
You can't do it.
She would know.
But give Dort credit. Give Windy credit. You know, he had to stay up in the middle of the night. You, of course, yeah. Dort made the 3 threes. They did make 5 threes in the last 6 minutes of the game.
That was.
And I love Perk, but Perk, when he scores 44 points and 15 rebounds, maybe that's not the time to put out a tweet saying he's tired with that kind of performance. I would also say that.
That's Perk being a curmudgeon. That's Perk being a curmudgeon. By the way, his little son beat me in the game of basketball. Little 8-year-old bullied me and beat me in the game of basketball and said, "I beat you, old man." That's how big.
No, really?
That's how Carter, his little kid Carter, he's an adorable little kid. He beat me in the game of basketball and said, "I beat you, old man." That's
one of the great players in the history of Winston-Salem.
Did it hurt your feelings? It hurt your feelings a little.
Not at all. Not at all.
Did OKC clinch the series last night going up 3-2, Windy?
I have a confession to make. 2 nights ago, while I was doing Countdown in L.A., after getting up for Get Up that day, Malika had to wake me up in the 4th quarter of the Warriors and the Wolves game. So, it can happen. It can happen. Wow. But, that game wasn't exactly that exciting in the 4th quarter.
It was 87-67. You're allowed. It was 87-67.
Dog, I was living and dying with every basket. So I'm sorry, Molly, what was the question?
Did OKC clinch the series going up 3-2?
No, hell no. Let me just tell you one interesting facet of this series. I want to praise Oklahoma City all over the place for the way they handled their business in the 4th quarter last night. It showed incredible growth year over year because they were in the same moment last year. It was 2-2 in Game 5 at home against the Mavericks, and they didn't deliver in that game. I don't know if I would say they choked, but they didn't deliver. Specifically, Jalen Williams, he had a miserable end to that series last year. He worked so hard on his game. He hits the biggest shot of his career to break the last tie in this game. And also, and I know Stephen A. holds Sam Presti, the team president, accountable. Sam Presti's acquisitions from last year, Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, played big roles in this game. Having said that, no, this series is absolutely not over. Right. And this is one thing to keep an eye on. So in Game 6, it will be the 7th game in I think, 15, 16 nights for Denver. It's going to be brutal to win that game at home. However, they get an extra day if they get to Game 7. If they can get Game 6 at home, they get 2 and 7, and that could be a world of difference for Denver. Keep an eye on that.
Well, let me say this real quick. He brought up Sam Presti. I have never uttered a negative syllable about Sam Presti in terms of his ability to acquire talent. My issue with him is that he has been the man running the Oklahoma City Thunder doggy since 2007.
You got to win something.
Okay?
Yep.
17 plus years as the executive, as the president of basketball operations, with Hall of Fame talent, league MVPs, perennial all-stars draped all over the roster, okay? And he's been a title contender at least 8 years of those 17 years. At least 8 years of those 17 years, probably more. And he doesn't have one single championship to show for it. At some point, you have to close. You can't be one of those executives that the ownership is just satisfied. You make us money, you keep us competitive. No, you got to close. I want to see Sam Presti win a championship.
Good point.
That's all. That's all. Nothing else.
I do think we'll see a Game 7. I'll trust Denver at home Sunday afternoon, 7.
By the way, Doggy and Wendy, we got to talk about the diet. We got to talk about what y'all are doing. That you
stop with this nonsense.
During the game.
I got to listen to him now. Give me an update about what I do.
I'm just saying.
If he worked out as hard as I did, it'd be a little different story.
Okay.
You worked out as hard as I did, you may continue.
Worked out as hard as you did?
Yeah,
When'd you work out? When'd you work out?
I don't want to say what I did Monday.
Playing tennis? Playing tennis?
I worked out. I had a lesson and everything else.
Really?
I lost, but that's not.
Got on the Peloton for 15 minutes?
You may.
Is that what you did?
All right, speaking of closing, you think the Knicks will do it tonight? Coming up, New York can punch their ticket to the conference finals. How does our crew like New York's path to winning their first championship in a very long time? Major news in the baseball world. Pete Rose, eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. Mad Dog has some